you want me to wait a minute? That's cool.
We're streaming. I mean, we're ready to go. So whenever you're ready.
So you need this? Okay, now we can start the meeting. Sounds good. So I'll call it to order. I'll introduce myself. I'm John Lindman. I'm a co-chair, and I'm from the Hidden Springs area. And this, I found out, is my 6th time that I've been on this board. Yeah, more times than I thought. I looked it up. I did. I pushed it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Vicki Handy, co-chair, Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I'm from the Willamette neighborhood.
Hello, Todd Olson, Parks and Board member with the Barrington Heights neighborhood.
Hey everybody, Roy Bielosowski, Mayor of West Lynn. Nice to see also the people online. Hi Stacy. I'm from the Willamette neighborhood. I grew up in Willamette and now live in the Hidden Springs neighborhood near Sunburst Park.
Karen Kellogg, and I'm from Robinwood neighborhood.
Tara Winkenstaff.
Oh,
Diana Lavery, Tanner Basin neighborhood.
Now you have 3 of them.
Kevin Bonington, City Council.
Megan Big John staff.
Good. Nice to have everybody here. All right, so we need to approve today's agenda. Does everybody have a copy of that? Looks good to me. Any additions? Are we okay with it then?
and I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the agenda's in. Oh, you know
I
what?
hear you, but I thought I heard people talking in the background. Did you?
Yeah, you can say who you are.
Stacy, introduce yourself.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Stacy?
Can you hear us?
Stacy just texted that she's hearing it's very faint. From my end, it's coming through fairly clearly. And by the way, I'm Chris Owens. I'm a board member, and I'm from the Robinwood neighborhood.
I'm Stacy Epstein. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me or not. I hear sort of a background murmur, but that's it. All my sound controls are up to high.
Okay. All right, so did we approve the
Summary notes.
summary notes? Yeah, so we've got the notes from
Okay.
January 8th. I looked at them, they're good to me. I didn't have any changes. Anybody else?
Move to approve the January 2026 notes.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Yeah, you weren't here. Yeah.
All right. Tara, do we have any community comments?
No community comments.
Awesome. Well, we're delighted to have not only our regular council liaison, but also our mayor. And so maybe we can have a united city council update is the next on the agenda.
Sure.
Yeah, you guys get to hear me talk all the time, so I think I'll let my friend here
Let me
take over.
let me look at the tentative agenda real quick just to.
Just putting you on the spot.
Sounds good. Sorry, I'm just going to pull up No, well, it's been a busy time for city council.
It
We're getting
has.
ready to have our retreat coming up in a couple of weeks where we're hoping to dive more into the details of our financial plan discussion and community engagement surrounding that issue. And at the last meeting, we did take action to increase the parks fee a little bit to compensate for the operations center construction that's hopefully going to begin pretty soon. And I know there was some talk at the Parks Board about the different levels of the fee increase, so we ended up just focusing on paying for the operations center component to help offset a potential deficit created by the operations center funding that was going to come out of our existing budget. So we had 80% paid for with existing revenues, but had to come up with a little bit more just to make sure we didn't have a deficit in the parks maintenance budget. So we did $5.20 a month was what we ended up going with, and we kind of left which directly pays for that operations center component for the parks maintenance. And so we left the other $5 kind of on the table because we heard feedback from the Parks Board and also others about concerns related to financial impact. So that'll be kind of part of the future conversations about that. Do you just want an update? Is that enough? I mean, I gave an update to the Rotary Club, and there was like 10 things going on with the operations center, TriMet's, getting ready to do some line reductions, and we just had a presentation from Wilsonville's Smart Transit, and they're going to start kind of backfilling the area where TriMet's cutting their service. So interesting times for transit, but not necessarily parks related. And I know there's some other agenda items next to kind of touch on a couple of other topics.
We have a new police chief. He was appointed
new
last
police
week.
chief.
I think most of you saw that.
So, yeah, I'm happy to actually take questions from any
One of
board
the things we
members.
talked about last time we were here with increase in fees, because Kevin was talking about the fees that really need to increase for us to cover things in the city of West Lynn, is that we thought it might be better instead of a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here to do it all at once, which of course would be tough. So it's fine that we've increased the parks fee for that building, whenever that happens, okay? But still, we're down the $5 that we need to help pay people to cut the grass and do that kind of stuff. But the other thing that we talked about, and I'm sure you've talked about in city council, is that if somebody lives in a $2 million house or somebody lives in a $300,000 house, they're going to pay the same fee. And that's a hard thing, I think, for all of us to know about. I'm sure the council has talked about that. But as somebody that has no trouble paying that fee, that's good for me, but not necessarily some of my neighbors.
Appreciate that.
And I wasn't here in January, I was sick. First board member I've missed.
Yeah, like it forever.
I just want to say I'm grateful for council to start looking at the budget gaps when it comes to maintenance, especially with the Parks and Rec department. A fee is never good. I've seen some of the language around it says it addresses a shortfall in the general fund, which I think is very dangerous rhetoric in our community especially. But I think a fee that is addressing the budget shortfalls when it comes to dealing with deferred maintenance of what we have and finishing up the projects that we have going on. It's a difficult but proactive move.
Yeah, appreciate that. And the unfortunate thing is the fee that we talked about and approved really is dedicated directly to the operations center. So it's not going to cover.
It's a good start.
It's not going to cover the capital improvement projects that we talked about with Megan about, and you all have looked at a deferred maintenance in the park system. So we're still going to have to. We're planning to kind of fold that broader conversation to what you were talking about, into our financial plan, kind of so the community knows what to expect. And also, we really want to hear from the community about what they want to see, how they're feeling about city services, and kind of just have a broad engagement on that. So, and luckily, the Parks Maintenance Department will have a big space from in the operations center and benefit from it tremendously, I think, having a centralized location. Because I keep hearing that we have like 8 different sites across the city where all the equipment and materials are stored for that, and it just can't be efficient.
No,
So-
there's going to be so much great efficiency by being in one location and in our disturbance and throughout the community as well. And I do want to give council a huge thank you because they've been nothing but supportive of our department as well as Parks Board, but to be able to really understand, you know, what these fees are, how important it is. And the one thing, there's a large communications plan that's coming out that the council and our communications team will be working on for talking about budget for future for the next, you know, few months, maybe even over the year. But the one thing with the parks portion of it is people always think if we were to reduce our maintenance, you think of grass cutting or cleaning beds. But you think about it, our main job is maintaining the assets that we've instilled in each of those parks, right? So from playgrounds to courts to basketballs. So those are things that are harder, that become safety issues if we can't maintain long term. So I really appreciate everybody's effort to help figure this budget situation out. So I'm very thankful.
I sure hope that you can stay with us through the meeting. We are going to be looking at our kind of calendar and some of the issues that we want to address. And your input into that, I think, will be really valuable.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here. I can't fill in for Kevin, though. He's
Yes,
great.
you can.
Great.
Any other city council updates?
No, I think he covered
Okay.
that pretty well, although I would say that my hope as we roll out this conversation is that in the beginning phase, we'll be able to get as many people in the community involved in providing their concept, their vision for what we can all agree on are the values and priorities for services and the future of the city. And once we've got that shared concept agreed upon to whatever extent, it will be a lot easier to move forward with us all on the same page of what we expect. So that's kind of the way I've been approaching it.
Okay. Well, I know that we're all very conscious of some of the budget shortfalls. And, you know, as we look toward our planning for this year, we did put on the agenda just some of the current issues, updates, just to tie some stuff in a bow and maybe move on. And you talked about the parks utility fee already. Thank you. And as we look at what needs to be discussed and worked upon, we just want to make sure, are there other things that have been lingering? Are they still on the radar? And the tugboat and Oppenlander came up on those.
Admittedly, I'm not certain what the status is of the tugboat, but I can talk about Oppenlander, and I'll just do that first. So we were approached several months ago by ICON, representatives from ICON, who are in talks with the school district to purchase the site, and they offered us different layouts of park and started talking about dollars and cents, and then the latest proposal that came in was for like about a 1 acre park. So a lot less than the 10 acres that folks wanted, but it was buying all 10 acres was going to be about $8 to $9 million plus all the ongoing maintenance, just too much for grass. So the 1 acre, to at least from my vantage point, was kind of like a compromise figure that would still get something there, but it's not near what a lot of folks wanted, but it's kind of maybe more so what we could afford. We don't have dedicated funding for it, so it would have to be something approved by the voters. And I did start to think about, in my own head, the opportunity to maybe accomplish some other parks maintenance projects as part of that potential community conversation, and some of those deferred projects. And I don't know if the group's talked about the Parker Road property at all.
We've
but-
only briefly talked about that there's a dream for it and that
Yeah.
that's going to be starting to flush out in community outreach, you know, at some point in time here soon.
That's another, you know, to the extent we have some sort of parks measure on that funds the purchase of an acre of Oppenlander. I mean, I love the music in the park site, and I think it could be a lot cooler and a lot better. And we already own that whole site, so it's like, what if for a really cost-effective number we could build a, you know, like a pavilion, public outdoor pavilion with some food carts and actually make the music in the park experience, you know, super nice and something that could benefit the neighborhood more year round. So uh, that was my little project dream, but that's, you know,
Well, we'd love to piggyback on that dream.
yeah, we're excited to work together on it. And, you know, we really, the furthest we went as city council was kind of saying, hey, let's explore the potential for a November bond measure. And then ICON has been in negotiations with the school district doing their due diligence. And so nothing's happened since we had the meeting where we said that we're open to exploring that. And then I think that's going to be folded into kind of the broader community conversation. We're trying not to have, like you were talking about, you know, things come out at one, you know, a fee here, a bond here, a levy there. We're trying to make sure we're coordinating as much as possible so that everybody knows what to expect. And then ICON was able to be flexible. At one point we thought, okay, we might have to do a May bond measure. Nobody wanted to do that, so we were able to give us, you know, said we could come forward in November, possibly even next May with the funding for that
Well, I know
site.
sometimes companies that build houses will also give some land for parks. So is that something we've talked to ICON about? I mean, I get that they want to sell us an acre of
Yeah.
land somewhere.
It's,
But I mean, if they're going to build on 10 acres and build a lot of houses, I mean, sometimes they'll give
great question. We haven't, I don't think we've broached that with them. That's never been brought up in conversation. What has been talked about, I think, is the ability to potentially apply. So if you have, you pay SDCs to the park system when you build a lead development. So for a cost saving to the city, we could apply those SDCs to the build out of the park. So that would reduce offset the
But-
cost.
Whether it's SDC or bond or general fund, they're funds.
Yeah.
And I think with the budget shortfalls, I mean, I work in Salem every day, and it's real. I mean, this is very real. Not as the chair, as a community citizen who works in government, I think we have to be extremely critical of any expenditures for anything new, especially when we have shortfalls in being able to take care of the stuff we already have. You know, I'd be a lot more excited about seeing an operational levy to focus on operations than a bond to buy more stuff. We have extensive parks. Everything, the analysis in the master plan, we have more parks, more acreage than any other city this size. And so expansion and new things, I don't think are nearly as important as taking care of what we have right now and starting to plan for those less than sexy things like water systems and, you know, stuff that we know we need to start thinking about.
Yeah, no.
And, you know, I don't plan a trip to Disneyland when I can't make my house payment. I think that we have to, the council, every advisory board, we have to be looking at it through that lens before we look at spending any money on anything new. We have to really take a look at what we have and what we know we have to do and walk away from some things, even if it's something that's cool. You know, we've been in Parks and Rec. We get all sorts of interesting things thrown our way, and we can't just jump on everything that's shiny. And I guess I want to voice this so that you know that we stand in support, or at least, I don't know if I talk for the whole Parks Board,
I believe you do.
but that we really stand as a supporting and collaborative partner in making really tough decisions that may not be popular simply because that's the reality of the budget. And it's definitely a reality in Salem. I know that the city governments are seeing the exact same thing. So, you know, as a city council, it's really hard to stand up and say, That's not a priority right now. Or we are not going to commit any new funds to new things until we take care of these other priorities. And I want you to know that we really stand as a support in making those tough decisions. And are part of the, want to be part of the solution, even though it's more fun to say, hey, let's do that. Yeah.
We talked a bit about this last meeting, I believe, about how important transparency is going to be in all of this, especially there's a lot of really angry people in West Lynn about the school closures. And then we have the big bazillion-dollar transportation measure being kind of the ghost is still out there. And I think being very honest and open about the good, the bad, and the ugly in a positive way instead of what I sometimes feel like the state does. Well, if you don't vote for this, then no one will do anything and we won't plow your roads and we won't fix anything. I think if we can approach it very honestly, like, hey, everybody, this is where we are. We do or don't have money for this, so this is why we're making this decision just so we can save the money for this. And now then the second part is, how do you get people to listen to that and become engaged? I don't know, but I think that should be a big priority, and just being honest about it. No surprises, because I think people have had some real surprises, especially about the elementary schools.
After passing a huge bond. So I just, something to consider.
Totally. No, I really appreciate that perspective, and also your perspective, Karen. This is something I wrestle with all the time when I'm trying to think about like how to build public support around something. And I totally hear what you're saying. And, I wrote a couple notes on my thing, like, so a operating levy, which I'm sure you're familiar with, can pay for staffing and help offset some, potentially offset some budget issues, but then it's harder to use that to fund projects. So then when I think of like a potential bond measure package of, talking about Oppenlander / the Parker Road thing and taking care of some other deferred maintenance projects, like it's more like, how can I build public support for something that would help take care of our system? And it could be a little bit easier perhaps to have some, cost-effective, exciting new things also in that messaging, rather than we're just, so there's a balancing act to build that public support. Now, I haven't done any polling on any of this, so, that's what so it's like, I'm totally open to feedback from, as we go forward in any of this from Parks Board, and would hope to have a joint meeting and continue to engage more just on like how to, go about the process of taking care of what we have and building public support for things.
Well, I know, I would love to propose on the Parker site, putting one of those big architectural tents that you can take down in the summer, and we could have it for sheltered rec in the winter, $100,000, that would be great. And I think it would solve a lot of things. And I know I would not actually put that forward, just knowing where we are economically. I think it would be awesome. And I think that we have to be models of fiscal responsibility. So
Thanks.
there we go.
Appreciate that.
Okay. What's the status of the tugboat?
I think I can give that. It is currently, our legal counsel is reviewing the transfer agreement and overall agreement with the organization right now, and so that's where it's sitting. And then once that is kind of at that point of where it's satisfactory for both parties, it will be presented to council for a decision. So that's where that's at right now. If I can add a couple things about budget, and just very interestingly enough, as you guys all know, I keep diving back into the Parks Master Plan. I try to keep going back to resourcing it and referencing it, and I think a part that's interesting is a lot of the things that are coming up right now are essentially addressed within the master plan, looking at the general fund, bond measures, SEC charges, operating levies, so all the things we're talking about right now, talks about the maintenance fee and our user fees and programming fees, which Tara and I are doing the updates and working on that with the staff too. Foundation support is something we've never looked at. Private contributions, if you were thinking we were talking about the rec center, those were things we were talking about. So it's kind of nice that some of that framework is there. It's solidifying the conversations that we're having and the creativity that we need to do. And it's nice that it's already in here kind of broken down. So that kind of red flag was there as far as long-term planning, right? And maybe not a red flag, but just long-term planning. The second thing is that I found, again, knew it was there, but looking at it, is there is a list of a prioritization criteria. So for Parks Board, we can start to use that as a reference, or you guys can use that as a reference for when you're looking for recommendations. At least it's a metrics that's been approved by Council and Planning Commission and Parks Board, and that can be some of that matrix that you can use. And I was realizing I might pull that out of this document and have that as when decisions are weighed or if Council's looking for your input, that could potentially be part of your criteria. So those are things that I can start to share out. But as I'm flipping through and noodling again and keep going back to that document that's been approved, it's a huge resource. So I just wanted to add that to there.
Nope, don't want that. Oops. Well, Megan, you do such an amazing job at keeping us real and on track and adding structure to. Okay. So the next agenda item, I wasn't here in January, but we had the Parks and Rec Council report and our plan and priorities. I brought hard copies, so you have it in front of us, but I'm also happy to share. So one of the docs that I handed out is the 2025 Community Advisory Group annual report. So we have that in front of us, and it has our schedule that we had last year. The other thing that I handed out was our draft from the 2026 Parks and Rec Advisory Board schedule. Is the one page, it's black and white. Nothing on here is in stone. This is in soap for us to play with. And the last document is actually also in our council report, is a color 2-page. And this is the Westland City Council priorities that we reviewed in October. And we identified in the final column on this what we need to consider in 2026. And so as we create our plan for 2026, I wanted to make sure that we had this in front of us so that our planning is in alignment with our analysis and our work toward the city council priorities. So I realized that I did not attach this to our agenda. I apologize, but we talked about this in December. So some of the things that we had said were going to be priorities going into 26. Some of the things were sheltering options for year-round rec, community gathering options, review and confirmation of programming agreements with the old buildings, Old City Hall, Robinwood, as it relates to scheduling for recreation or programming in any way that if we, those are city buildings, can we do a better job leveraging them and optimizing their use? Under park policy, we really focused on the communication around mitigating tree threats. We have the whole integrated pest management program still looming that we need to address. We talked about a parks tour, just looking, doing a day, going through the parks and just looking at safety and trails and making sure that, we all have our favorite parks, but to make sure that we're all talking and working off of a shared experience across the parks. We talked about doing that for 2025, and it didn't actually happen, but we put it on 2026. Trail audit for safety, maintenance needs. I don't know if that goes hand in hand with that. We wanted to do more involvement with Westland City Transition Plan. And then we also wanted to continue input and accountability for the non-motorized boat launch at Willamette Park. That's a big project that's kind of hanging out there. We talked about the review of the Vision 43 and making sure that everything's in alignment with the Parks and Rec Master Plan and Trails Master Plan, and that we're a collaborative part moving forward. And then the community engagement, we talked about developing enhanced community input points, and, web and survey, just some basic, enhanced outreach. So I just wanted to review that because we spent quite a bit of time, in alignment with the city council priorities to identify needs for 2026. So we have, now 10 meetings that, one of the things that we said that we like is we take a look at the whole year, and instead of saying, oh, what's coming up this week, to really be strategic and make sure that we're addressing things that, may not be as fun, but, be a little bit more strategic. And so I'm looking at the doc that is 2.0 meeting plan 2026 for Parks and Rec. So I updated all of the dates in the first category, meeting dates. The location, we tried to do different locations last year. I don't know if we want to try that. I love this room. This is working great for me. But,
It kills the two of them.
the meeting discussion is the piece that, obviously, we always respond to community comments, and if there are council issues that you want us to address, that always goes on the agenda. But to take a look at the whole year, to use our meetings kind of strategically. Based on the meeting agenda, that's where we identify what we need to do in preparation. And then if there's any output from the meeting that we need to be accountable to ourselves too. And so in January, I wasn't here, I was sick, so I just put parks, fees, and updates. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. And then today.
One of the shortest meetings we've ever had.
There you go.
'Cause we didn't talk about this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And then for February, of course, the Parks and Rec priorities and plan. And then I just started plugging stuff in. It is in SOAP. I just didn't want to start with a blank sheet, okay? And so, I tossed the Vision 43 overview in March. I don't know if we want to do that. One of the things we talked about in the analysis with the city priorities is we talked about how important it is to do the deep dive research on certain policies and protocol so that we can provide a really informed advisory to the city council if there's something like the business use and commercial use of parks. If there are specific controversial or vague or poorly written policies or protocol that we can support staff and support council by helping with the research and the deep dive and support needed. I have a few in mind, but that's something I would really love, Megan, your input on as far as what do you want us to tackle and move that forward and get that off your books. Because we support you in your goal to get structure to Parks and Rec. So in March, I tossed on confirm. I didn't say which one, but a protocol or policy for research. And then 2 months later, it would be, or the next month, the policy review, and to start that. And so, you can start playing in your head what you want.
I am not going to be here in March, so just as a
Okay.
heads up. I'll be in West Virginia at training, so just as a
No.
heads up. I punt to Tara.
Whatever we do, we want to make, well, maybe that's maybe we can, that would be a good month to get I don't know who's running Vision 43, but maybe inviting them to our meeting for a little overview.
Yes, and that also includes, we have not received an update from the Westland Waterfront Project too, and that's both Darren now. And so I spoke with him today. I don't know his availability, but he is prepared to come and speak with you about both projects.
Oh, awesome. But I thought, maybe if you're not here that month, that would be a good use of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll be
Okay.
really excited to see those projects, where they're at.
So I would suggest then that we take confirmed policy protocol and just drop that down a couple months. That also gives you a little bit more time to reflect on the best use of what you want us to focus on and what your priorities are. Does that work for you guys? Do you like this so far? Are we rocking? Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so that goes down a month, and then that goes down a month. I believe April, we have our tree stuff, right? We have the Arbor Day, we have all sorts of stuff going on, tree-related. And so the things that I believe we're responsible for are Tree City, Tree Code and Care, our favorite mob, Mediterranean oak borer update, the lovely ash beetles, all things trees in April. Is that right, Megan?
It is correct. So Tree City, an ideal situation was we would bring it to you in March for approval, but because I'm not going to be here, we'll bring that in April to you, if that works for you. And as well as MOB, EAB is really what is really coming to the surface. Not that they're both not insects that we need to manage, but I am in continuous conversations with the Department of Forestry, and I've asked if they would come and present to you on EAB in general. I'm hoping they'll be able to come in April, but they're working around the state to help support Arbor Day activities, so it may have to move to May. But I think either way, that is something I think is really valuable, and I'll have a little bit more on that in my update. The other thing that's happening that month is we're having our Heritage Tree dedication over at McLean House, so we'll make sure that you're invited to that I thought could be included. We have not chosen the date yet. They're waiting on me, and we'll pick that date to be able to have that celebration.
Wonderful. So I grouped are the tree topics correct, Megan? Did I get all the things that we
Yes.
are supposed to do with our charter?
Yeah, tree code, I think you can potentially remove tree code and care at this moment, just because I'm not doing any updates, but I would wrap any of those in at that time.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And Bee City, I couldn't remember when Bee City is due. Okay. See, I remember these things. This thing, Pollinator Month.
Tara, do we need the approval, though, in May from them before we do our final submission? I just know Tree City better. So no, we don't need to? Perfect, so June's good.
Awesome. Sheltering options for year-round recreation was on our list to consider. It's, an ongoing priority. I know I just did this whole spiel on let's not buy anything new. But do we want to have that on one of our meetings?
I think we're going to I would hold it there. The reason being is council's going to be doing their retreat and goal setting. And so some of those projects may come to light through that process, like for Tanner Creek project, if it's for, building, a project over there. I think I would leave it and then find out if we have to make adjustments with council priorities. Sorry, I kind of sputtered through that.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a question to me?
No,
I can weigh in
she
too.
was talking about city council, so I was just kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Are you agreeing
Sorry.
with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, once we get through priorities, like right now, the current goal priority has the community rec center on there, and I'm assuming that will come off, and then this community gathering spaces potentially will come on. So that's why I think if we hold it there after the retreat, we'll know our future goals from council, and then we can add that to our discussion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. I have a couple things to share too, but I'll hold till.
Yeah, I'm just going over the start, and then we can rip it apart and recreate it. In June, we try to individually visit Hammerly and just check out, pickleball, that's always a contentious issue in our community. And I think, our city manager really did a lot of work to try to negotiate probably the most peaceful balance we've had so far. But, we have said, oh, let's go check it out ourselves and just do a pickleball update. Nothing significant, just that, we're doing our due diligence, keeping it in our radar. Do we still need to do that?
Currently, I just met with the Pickleball Association down at Hammerly. Things are going great down there. So there's still some question about Tanner, and I've been asked to hold the course where things are working right now. I know there's still some conversations that are occurring, and those will float up to council as needed. So, but definitely looking at what's working and evaluate there. So at this time, I don't know that there's anything that's coming to light at this moment, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be looked at by PRAB.
Well, I think we're okay. It's not like we're in a crisis or anything. But, part of our thing is to, if there's a controversial thing, to keep on top of it and surface it and have just a conversation and reevaluate where we're at.
Part of that conversation that came out was excitement about partnering with that group to be able to offer family classes and youth classes, and so workshops that are, that they're offering. So there's some great things that'll be coming as far as them kind of essentially giving back to the park and to the community. So yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, Hammerly really works well because of the noise from
Hammerly's
43. I mean, when we were looking at all the pickleball stuff, I got to sit in some people's backyards and hear the stuff. But you can't hear a thing other than the cars in Hammerly during the day. So that's a great place to have it. That's why it works so well. And you can't hear it from the school either because of the big wall there.
And so then, we don't meet in August. July, just a quick budget update, project update, keeping an eye on that, fiscal responsibility. And the review of the summer events and community input.
Can I just ask a question
great.
about August?
Yeah,
Just why August?
I have no idea. Would you rather make it July? Because
We would
you
prefer
guys
July
are-
if possible.
Okay. Let's look, can we make that change? Okay,
Yeah,
so we don't meet in July and we do meet in August.
And yeah, just because of Old Time Fair, we're usually racing from here, and I feel like our presentations are a little bit light because we're taking care of that and getting the concert series rolling. So
Well, for many years, we didn't meet in either July or August.
Well,
Because of everything
were-
going on.
schlumpy. Those were schlumpy years.
Hey,
That was a prior city council. We got out of there. No.
well, and when it comes to the budget, because budget committee is meeting in June, that might be a better time for me to bring some updates of what we're discussing and talking about, in general. And then, not that I'd have an update per se, but I can talk about where, what it's looking like, but then coming back in August to share what was passed if there's any questions. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to do this. Is that sharing? Nope. So moving the budget and project update to June, striking July, and meeting in August. So this is a starting point. Is there anything on here? No. Let's talk about other priorities. What are some things that I missed from this list? And what are some suggestions? It's great that we have our mayor here. And of course, how can we best, so the real question is, how can we best support staff and your goals this year? And what needs to be on here?
Sure. And I haven't checked in with city council on this yet, so I obviously can't speak. I don't want to add anything onto the Parks Board's list without talking. So we'll talk at the goal setting retreat. But the Transportation Advisory Board recently did some interesting work looking at pedestrian safety projects, and they kind of came up with a prioritized list of like the top X number of projects, that the city council could then use if it ever wanted to, as we try to figure out how to fund, all these different community needs. And when I was sitting here, I was struck by thinking about, what are the parks maintenance needs for the deferred projects? And we've even talked at recent meetings about parks maintenance projects and trying to come up with a little funding stream for that. But then if I'm sure we have some things in the master plan, but like if I asked, or if council asked, hey, what should we do? You know, what is the number one maintenance project or the top 5 maintenance projects across the city that are just have to be done? You know, I think things like I think we have a bridge in Mary S. Young as an example, and like this is maybe a big, I don't know if we have the capacity to undertake this, you know, without consultants as a city, but you know, just having a similar list from for the parks would be very helpful.
Well, I might point out that we didn't necessarily like the way that list came out with the consultants. So the human approach to it without a formula or an algorithm to determine it is probably better. Yeah.
Well, ironically enough, I'm in the process of working with a couple different consultants for what's called a facilities, or it depends, a facility, whether it's park or facilities, of all of our facilities, every condition assessments, because that's what we need to look at long term. But it does work with staff, not just an algorithm who goes and does some of that scouting, and then we are able to look at our long-term projections. So that will be something I'm working on right now to find out what that cost would be, to be able to have a holistic approach of our long-term replacements for items, but like when you're looking at all of our buildings as well. So kind of tied in nicely with what you both were saying.
Yeah, and that was a good point, Kevin, because that was interesting. One project in particular came out as number 1 based on all the inputs, but then it was like, why would this one project be number 1? The critical street public pedestrian safety project was just because of the way all the things were weighted with zoning and things like that. So yeah, human input is essential. So I don't know, that's one idea, and I'll talk to city council about it. The other thing was, if we come out of our retreat and there's the interest in a community gathering space, you know, we'd love to collaborate with Parks Board on that and how it could work. And I know it's something new, but you know, the idea is to not have something super expensive, you know,
Right.
like we already own the site, it's underutilized. I just wrote down a couple notes, like, what if we had some gravel parking there, food carts, a permanent stage, some seating areas, and, you know, a bigger bathroom so we don't have to bring in porta potties and bring in that ridiculous chalk that the staff have to put down on the site. And it was actually a place that, you know, it was really nice to go maybe on a year-round basis rather than just over the summer too. So anyway, everybody has their own little idea for that, but we'll talk to city council about that and get that on something like that on the priorities list, like community gathering space, and then we'll start talking about it if folks are interested.
It was just $65 million.
Well, I think we
Yeah.
can
If you've
recognize
ever been
that.
to Oregon Golf Club and seen their tent,
Yeah.
I mean, those go up and they do come down. And it doesn't have to be that big, but a real architect, not just, you know, a pop-up, you know, Bob's pop-up, but, you know, something of substance that we can, anyway, didn't want to go down that. But
Well,
The tent up there stays up all the time.
I know, but I know that those types of tents, a lot of restaurants and stuff have them, and they take them down for summer, they put them up for winter. Anyway, but the point is that we have sheltering options for getting together in bad weather, right?
Well, and a piece that I was bringing up later is we're trying to figure out how to optimize our metro local share dollars. And so there's some things that come into Tanner and other daydreaming that we're working on to meet with the criteria that we'll be working on and presenting to council in the near future. So
I've had the thought that the economic landscape is definitely challenging right now, but unless you are really dedicated to believing what people say in the comments section on the internet, it's going to get better eventually. And we can be prepared to tackle projects on the upswing of the
Good
economic
point. Really good
situation.
point, Kevin.
So that's how I've kind of viewed
Let's
keeping
not
this
get too
project alive.
short-sighted. Yeah, yeah. As we were kind of talking through this, other things that
I'm happy to take
inspire? Go for it.
comments or questions for sure. I don't want
No,
to
it
dominate
just,
the meeting. But
this is the opportunity, that, like I said, this isn't soap. Now we talk about what we would like to see and what we think is important. You know, this stuff came out of the city council priorities that were given to us. So is there anything else that you want to make sure is on our planned agendas? Okay.
no, I think those those are, those two things I mentioned are, and I'll, like I said, I'll talk to city council to confirm that there's interest in working on those things. But, like if I said, what are the top 5 or 10 parks maintenance projects in the city of West Lynn and how much do they cost? Right now, I don't think, there'd be some anecdotes, but like I don't have, as a city, we don't have data on that particular point and costing and things. So that'd be really helpful to
I
take a
just
look
shared
at
it.
just as we we can't fund everything at once in our
Right.
city, and the economic climate things are really expensive. Just like, how do we just chip away at things over time and take care of our system on parks, streets, everything.
Absolutely. And building that document, I mean, I have so many layers of that right now. And so getting to that put together, because I'm doing SDC update right now, which also leads into capital improvement update all at the same time. So that's kind of what I've been focusing a lot on, to be able to have numbers for the short term, but then looking at that long-term replacement costs and ongoing maintenance. So Vicki, one I wanted, you go ahead and add. I have one later. You go ahead.
No,
if you
go
want.
ahead.
Well, Arts and Culture Commission would like to come and do a presentation to you regarding their new project that they're working on. It's in conjunction with Oregon City and Lake Oswego, and looking along historical display of connective art between the 3 cities. And so that's kind of where they're launching off, and they'd like to come and talk with you about it, to look at the locations, because they're primarily in parks along 43. So it's a really exciting project. I'm the liaison for that group as well. And
Do they
so,
have a time?
well, I was going to find out if it might be March, even though I may not be here, but it might be April. So it could be, they can come in whenever it's appropriate for you guys, or not appropriate,
Go ahead
works
and
for
put it
you.
on the list.
Yeah.
And that's the, can you say it again?
Arts and Culture Commission.
Arts
Mhm.
and Culture Commission.
It's actually pretty exciting. So,
Awesome. What else is on your radar?
I think you've gotten all of it. All of my highlights have been talked about, so thank you.
So a couple things.
Yeah.
So based on what Mayor was saying, I think in May, adding the public gathering space, because that might be a good timing of that. And then on the other sheet, we talked about non-motorized boat launch.
Yeah.
And when would be a good time for that? I mean, is that something that you're
I
just going
think
to give
it's-
updates throughout the year?
Yeah,
Or
I
that
I
along
put
the
it
side
in
of that?
October, the Willamette Park projects, just in general, an
Okay.
accountability point, but
So I think that's a really great question, because I would like to be able just to give a project update. I'm currently reviewing our bond funding that we have left for facilities and parks, as well as our CIP budget that's current right now. So within the next month or 2, I can give an update on all of those. I think would be very timely, as well as I'm looking at either grants that we're going to be applying for, or our Metro Local Share options. So I think if that was lumped together versus specific would be great. So I
Okay.
think, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nope, that sounds good. And then the other one was I saw in here, there's a Westland City ADA transition plan. What, do you know what that?
So for parks, we actually currently don't have one.
Okay.
So I don't know if there is one for streets, but we don't have, or for public works, but currently we do not have one. It's something that we do need to have eventually. And then I'm wondering, we'll come up with this overall plan as we're looking at our deferred maintenance as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can, towards the end of the year, have that as part of
Discussion.
address this next year,
Yeah.
right?
is it
Yeah.
transition or transportation?
This is transition.
Transition plan, okay.
And that's very common for parks,
Yeah.
and recreation
So
departments
maybe
to have.
in the fall, we can talk about how we would get something going.
So I don't know if you can see it in October, I put Public Works, ADA transition plan.
Okay.
Because that, I'm assuming in the larger picture is driven by Public Works, and then,
They're both, and they're separate. They obviously address different areas.
Yeah.
But usually it's where you do need to have a consultant come in, because they look at door jams to find out if they meet the criteria. So they can need to be moved up 1 or 2 inches. If, egresses are things up to the standards that are currently listed. So that is actually somebody where you have to hire out a consultant to do that work. It's definitely important to do. And then you work on long-term plans of how you start shipping that off. We do currently have money set aside in our CIP plan every year to do ADA upgrades. So right now we're working on approaches and transitions between sidewalks and roadways. That's what we're currently doing, the ones that are known, but we have not had that full evaluation yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I bring it up is that if we are looking at prioritizing maintenance, which I think is a great idea, and as you, assuming funds become
Plans.
available for that, you don't want to be doing maintenance and then all of a sudden be like, oh, we should have done it this way instead of the other way.
Absolutely.
And kind of, if we can't align those.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Chris and Stacy, can you see this document on your screen? And what is it that you've heard that you like? What is it that you would change or add?
I think Stacy logged off. I know she was having trouble hearing you. I've been tracking the discussion, but it's been a little hard to follow. You know, not having the supporting documents and so forth there. But what I've seen so far, you know, sounds good. I really don't have anything to add to it, and I'm fine with shifting the non-meeting month to July instead of August.
Great. Thank you, Chris. How about other board members? Diana, what are your thoughts? What do you like? Or what would you change or add? Yeah. Awesome. Karen, how about you?
I always get stuck in the weeds on stuff, but.
You want to start fixing everything on
Yeah,
the
I'm like,
list?
okay, wait a minute. No, I'm just kind of slightly going on a little bit, and we keep talking about we need gathering places. Is there, and I know this is like way out there, but is there any opportunity with the school properties that are apparently going to be vacant and might have some open space? I mean, is there opportunities for us to utilize those existing spaces somehow? And I can only imagine the two organizations trying to make that happen, which would be very difficult. But we keep having a theme. It's like we need more space for programming, and we need more space for this and places to get together. Well, it seems like there's going to be some rooms available, and I don't know if that's something doable or ridiculous. So just want to throw that out there.
We've been brainstorming that. Currently, Stafford, for what I've read, was actually being leased out to a preschool, so that area will be used. Bolton is sitting there as well, and so we're wanting to inquire what are gym spaces available, what are their options for using some of those, what would the cost be if there was to be a lease, whether it was for the summer. We haven't crossed that bridge, but we are definitely thinking about it. To figure out what that could look like and can we afford it and how can it optimize what we offer currently with the staffing we currently have. So definitely noodling that a lot. So I have to have some conversations.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just, all of our rec programs are so heavily used. People love them. We get excellent feedback. And we have two constraints. One, our staffing, and two, indoor. And, honestly, I'd love to get behind a levy to get more staff, because this is high demand. People love it. It builds community. It builds connection. And, yeah, it's something that I think should be explored. And I know that the
No,
constraint.
we've been talking about it.
Good. But it's like with everything with Parks and Rec, any constraint in either buying or building or fixing goes hand in hand with the constraint of staff. And so, we have to plan for both.
And we're even looking at the resources we currently have to do programming, just even our current shelters, or having yoga in the park or things. But again, it comes to that balance of what we can be able to program with the staff we have. But we're looking at not literally outside of the box, out into our parks and how to get people more there and have those recreational opportunities actually within the parks during those nice months. There are people who are willing to do Tai Chi underneath the shelter in the rain all year long. I've seen it in Lake Oswego. So, but that's what we are definitely exploring to try to build with what we currently have.
You guys
Yeah.
are awesome.
Yeah.
John, what are you like? What would you change? What would you add?
I think we're fine. I think we're doing
Okay.
fine with stuff. I kind of live at Marius Young, so that's sort of my favorite place. Uh, And I noticed that we did have some people out looking at bringing another trail down on the other side there. Because the wooden structure that's rotted out, replacing that is really, that's called Turkey Creek, walking down that, if you ever walk down that at Marius Young. It's very expensive to replace. More expensive, and the state's not going to give us money, and we certainly aren't going to have the $50,000 to $70,000 to replace that. We've had volunteers build stuff, but they're not going to build that. That's a little complex. But you had some guys look at another trail coming down off of,
Well, and actually, council approved some money in the CIP for us to be able to do that replacement. We're just trying to figure out the best way to go about doing it with that resource and with being really honoring the stream corridor. There would be, if we had to repour footings, that's permitting that needs to, really be taken account, and it's very steep in there. So
Yes.
that's why it's taking a bit of time. I've had several different conversations with different organizations to see how we could best do it. And there is a way to cut a trail on the opposite side. Yeah, but it changes the experience. And then also, but then you would get all of that built material out of the stream corridor. So we're trying to see what we can do for the best long-term fix to not have to change the experience there. So it's taking longer than I thought it would, but we're trying to get it right.
yeah,
So,
that's cool that you're looking at it.
yeah, right? Because it's very iconic for the park. So you don't want to lose it, but we also want to do the best we can by the environment that it's surrounding. So, yeah,
And we do have volunteers that build trails.
we do. We're very
Maybe-
lucky.
Maybe not in that steep an area, but
Yeah, and just because of the height of it and the risk that goes along with it and the long term, we don't know that it necessarily has to be engineered, but it is a 33-foot span. And so, and elevated above. So there's some
it's
quite a
really
bit of.
elevated, so.
There is, yeah. So we have to be really cautious about how we do it, but our goal is to get that opened. We also have about 2 other large projects that are needing to occur in Marius Young with a landslide that we're trying to work through right now as well, and then certain paving replacement coming up.
Yep.
So, yeah. So real well-loved park.
Well, I've been updating this as we talk. I think I got all of the items in the notes. We had said in December, please review the 2025 plan for any updates or changes. There are 2 things, obviously, we have to change, and that we just did one. The other is the major events, and I usually just work with Tara on that. And the rest, the intro and so forth, just really talk about our stance and what we do. I was going to add our Westland council priorities to the document, because I think that's important to stay in alignment, and then update the 2. But I also wanted to open the door if there were any changes to some of, we put some thought into what are we going to be, how are we going to act, what are we going to focus on in our, in our intro. If you did the review, was there anything that you'd change other than the dates that refer to 2026 instead of 2025?
Nope.
Okay. So,
I think it's good.
awesome. Then what I'll do is I'm going to get the dates from my friend Tara, and I'll put this in, do a couple sweeps on the 2026, and then I will send it to the Parks Board for final review, and then hopefully just pass it as approved at our next meeting, and then we'll send it off to City Council, although our mayor has seen the sneak peek, so he knows what to expect. And until we approve it, it's now in hardening soap, but it's not in stone. So when you see it, when you take a look at it, it's like, this doesn't make any sense, Vicki, but what were we thinking? Go ahead and let me know. I'll make any changes and we can approve it next month. The other thing, do we just want to have our meetings here and just say the technology is too, it has defeated our best intent to get out into the community and just say, we're going to have all meetings here?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
I mean, I would say all of us should certainly know what the Robinwood Station looks like, and we
Yeah.
certainly should know what goes on in the Adult Community Center, but I don't think we need to make these ladies set up everything there and trying to get things to work, especially at the Adult Center.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and we could always, it's just even the tour and around, we can always do a potential quorum notice, and we can get the adult community center van and drive around and go look at those areas. It's actually really fun to do as a group and just, talk. So that is something we can do as well, if we think of a time to do.
Can we go ahead and we have wanted to do that for the last 2 years. Can we just say in, I would think late spring, early summer, that we take a Friday and do a field trip together? Can we do that?
Yeah, and you guys can choose whether it's, if people have to worry about work, we could do it in the evening when the day is lighter. We can do it on a weekend too. Whatever you decide, we can, work on to accommodate. Yeah. But I think it would be fun, especially when we're talking about projects. But we post it, and then the public is able to attend if they desire, or that they just know that we're here and not discussing business. We're just touring.
We're
So.
touring. We're creating shared perception.
There's a public meeting law exemption for on-site tours and inspections. You're all good.
We're going to go inspect.
So you're good. Do you have any other questions for me, or I might go and grab dinner? I've had a crazy day running around to different
Hear ya.
things.
No, any feedback on our group, our meeting? I love having you here, just your reflections and impressions.
The feedback is every time I come around Parksport, I'm struck by how unbelievably organized and just productive
That's Vicki.
the group is, and I always feel like
There's a reason for this.
she's right here. I just every time she comes to city council for the year-end report, it's very organized and detailed, and I feel like there's some our other advisory groups could definitely learn from even just having the template of what your documents and all that the board does. So I just appreciate all of your continued engagement, and I think it's a challenging time, but also an exciting time for the park system. And just last week we had a presentation from the consultants on the water system and all the capital needs of that are unfunded for our water system, and there's more needs than will ever be funded by the community. It's just have to figure out how to prioritize. So that's what the exercise will be undertaking the next couple of years of my term, just to try to do that with the city council and all of you helping advise us in your different areas of expertise. So just glad to be involved. And so that's my reflection on the meeting. It's just amazing work that the Parks Board does. I mean, you create your own agenda and you stick to the the minutes on there, that's harder to do. I know from experience, that's harder to do. So, and you've got a good liaison at a lot of your
Kevin's awesome.
Kevin's
your meetings. So
Yeah. Well, you're always welcome. Love to have you. And if there's anything that you want us to jump in or help with, this is an amazing group and with some really, really smart people. I'm just shocked at the experience that's on this board. So,
sweet.
I
Appreciate
also
that.
feel like, and not that I want to give anybody else more work, but I always feel like there is a lot of very different expertise in this group. And like even I sit here sometimes and I'm like, I hear things, I'm like, well, I could help with that. And I feel like maybe there's opportunity to reach out to people on the different boards and say, hey, we've got this little special project going, not during a Parks Board meeting, but does anybody want to work on that?
yeah.
So,
You have a captive audience of skilled volunteers. I mean, just seriously, this board is really, really smart and background is amazing. You have a captive audience of volunteers here. Don't be afraid to
And
Thank you.
I think part of it is we don't have a volunteer coordinator for the city, so there's probably lots of things that people would jump in on if there was some system to manage that. But I would suspect that there's probably people here that would be willing to jump in on certain things.
And I hesitate because it's just been a really tough few months for me. But, you know, if you're getting ready for a retreat or strategy or whatever, if you want some help, geez, give me a call, Rory.
Sounds good.
That's kinda
Sounds
like
good.
what I do.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Well, we'll be in touch, and I'll send you, just so you have it, what the Transportation Advisory Board did, their recommendation, just so you kind of know not that we're asking you to do the same thing, but just so you have a frame of reference of kind of
That's awesome.
how that
Thanks.
looked. And then we'll give you an update after our goal-setting retreat, so that we'll pass that through Kevin so that you know what we decided on the different retooling our priorities. We have 2-year priorities, but we're going to retool them a little bit, I think. So
Well,
And,
years ago, when we were doing the Trails Master Plan, one of the number one things we got, and the transfer guys probably told you about that, was how kids walk to school in places where they have to walk on roads and not on sidewalks. And we were doing a Trails Master Plan, thinking about trails in the woods and things like that, because that's where I come from. But the number one thing that we got from people was that we really need safe sidewalks for our kids to walk to school.
that's what that list from
That's on that
transportation
list.
was.
It's right on that
Yeah,
list.
I mean,
It's true in the city of Portland, too. There's a number of places where they're walking on roads to get to grade schools. It's not a good thing.
totally.
I think we should also have a joint meeting on the books at some point this year, right?
Certainly, we'll do that.
Cool.
When we get to some of these topics that are on the, that we've talked about today, we'll definitely get a joint meeting on books, if people would like that. It's always nice to do that.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'll t-
Well, you have a good
I'll take
evening.
off,
That's
and
right.
I'm in law school in addition to mayor, and I had some city meetings and class and interviews. It's a crazy time, but I'm glad to be involved
So
with everything.
I've spent the whole day talking about how to hire and onboard lawyers and law clerks.
Wow. Nice. I got to call you then.
How can you still be smiling?
Oh, man.
Thanks.
Okay. So what we have left is project updates and events and recreation updates. The highlight of the night.
See you guys.
Well, I first wanted to, I was realizing I was stumbling a little bit over the pickleball conversation, and I was realizing the part that I'm really excited about is we know that that's a growing sport. The part that is bigger than even just pickleball is that there's going to be the community outreach that the council is going to be doing this year. And so I said there's nothing wrong with pickleball right now. There's obviously more desires to have more courts, we know that, or potential coverings, those things. But that stuff will start to come out with this communication. It could be something different besides even pickleball. And so I didn't want to minimize that conversation, but realizing that we're hoping to get a lot of feedback. And even when we're looking at our recreation programming, we're hoping to do a survey at some point in time this year just to look at our class offerings and outdoor activities. So I wanted to put that in a framework that it's even pickleball plus. Who knows what we hear from the community as to what those desires and new activities that people are looking to do, whether it's passive or programming. So that's something we're building. We had hoped to do it in January, but I'm thinking by, maybe by fall we start looking at that again for next summer. But getting that feedback, even from the Community Recreation Center outreach, we got so much feedback just from that conversation with the community. So I think that's where you all will get tapped in when those conversations are happening, or if the council decides to go out for bond and levy to look at what that would look like for that outreach and tapping into all of you. So anyway, I just was kind of thinking about that after I had said that. There's going to be more ask as the community starts to go through and get prioritized. So I just wanted to.
I think it's so important that when we look at what the community wants, then we also take a look at the assets that we have.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I do like about what MIG did with the Parks Master Plan is they looked at what's available close by. I actually clocked it. 7 miles away in Tualatin, there's a big, huge pickleball structure that's like
Indoor.
huge indoor structure. It's
Exactly.
7 miles away. It's not just what people want, but what we have and what is around us.
Mhm.
And, it does change the scope just a little bit.
It does, yeah. And that's where even just looking at, Tara and I, when we went to this workshop a couple weeks ago, it is looking at the resources that how many yoga studios are there around? How many, we've just started doing sound bath class, but how many others are offering that? There's some really cool things that are happening, but looking at not your competition, but who else is offering it, and then what are the needs that the community is looking for. That's kind of, we're looking at that larger picture. Who are we serving? What demographics are we missing? What age groups are we missing? So it's been fun to have those conversations with staff over the last couple years, and we're slowly making those transitions and finding, even just looking at our gaps and our locations that we can, at Sunset Fire Hall and the ACC, is there areas that time frames of the day that we're not optimizing? We're looking at all of that, and so
That's awesome.
it's really actually fun work to do too. So yeah, I've got really invigorated with this last workshop we went to. So yeah, yeah. So as far as parks, what the park staff has been up to, I wanted to first mention that for you to be able to take a look at the Westland project page. A couple topics I thought that you might want to look at. So it's called Your Westland, if you just type that in. So it's not on the city website. It's an additional project page website. There is updates on the Ops Center, which I think would be really great for you to see what that $5.20 fee is going to. The spaces that we are going to be getting and the value engineering
What
that
is
went
it?
in. If you type in Your Westland, and it should be a project page that comes up, and there's about 5 different projects that are currently on there. There'll be more coming up, and especially speaking about like the budget strategy coming forward will be on there, but I think it would be really good for you to take a look at the Ops building. There's also an update on Oppenlander in there for just the community to know what's going on, the history, to be able to share that, but it's a really neat resource to be able to look at. The rec center was on there when it was in the process. But for looking at our maintenance dollars, I have this little cheat sheet list that I wanted to share with you of general maintenance, because the crew has been putting in a ton of work this winter. So been going through our parks and grinding trip hazards along our cement walkways. We've gotten through quite a few parks and still working through more. There have been 9 parks that have received bark dust. Usually that waits till spring, and we haven't done it, in quite a few years. We got quite a few parks last year, but we've got 9 parks in. And remember, that's not just about beauty, that's about soil retention, moisture retention, and weed control. 4 playgrounds have received not arborist chips, but playground chips. And just so you know, those are engineered fiber, so they are actually, you can't just do arborist chips in those. So just for example, Tanner was $6,700 to put chips in there. So when you just think of that cost, it's important, but that's part of our playground inspections that we do on a continual basis. The skate park had received repairs, that there was cracks and some of the piping needed to be changed out, and that hadn't been done in a few years. We got the Marius Young pathway replaced. That was leading down to the water, and that was a big section to change out. Sahali Park had some nature play, and there's stair steppers that you get to I always call them like toadstools that you get to step on. Those are rotting out. Those just got replaced with cement ones that still meets the criteria for our safety play, but it still gives that nature feel because they still look like that. So that's a long-term replacement improvement. Tanner, drainage improvements were added from the water that sheens off of the pickleball tennis courts down into the park and into the playground. We're getting to replace basketball hoops. The adjustable hoops are quite expensive to replace. We know their value, but we're trying to look at if we do, for example, just because everybody knows Tanner, both are adjustable. Could one be stagnant where we would reduce our cost for the replacement pieces and keep one as adjustable? So we're starting to do those replacements. There has been a ton of pruning going on, staggering so that we're not having to shear as much in the summertime. They have done so much work. I'm actually going to be asking for how much debris they've taken to SNH for composting at some point in time here. And then we're working on getting quotes for this longer term, looking at our long-term replacement plan. Quotes for all of our playgrounds. Believe Hammerly was installed, oh my gosh, it's over 20 years old. So looking Hammerly, Willamette, and then North Willamette, our oldest playground. So starting to look at that succession planning of replacement and what our grant opportunities are through the playground manufacturers, potentially for Metro Local Share, which you can't do like for like, but there's some really great metrics that we have to meet to be able to tap into that money. That's really exciting. I'll bring more about that in the future. But I want to just make sure you guys are aware we're not just relying on general fund. We're looking at ways to optimize our resources. So that's really fun. I had a lot. I'm sorry, y'all. With trees, there's a member of SAB who reached out, Sustainable Advisory Board, that they had connected with me and Oregon Department of Forestry to start doing citizen tree surveys so that we can start capturing our tree canopies, specifically focusing on emerald ash borer and Mediterranean oak borer. It's going to take a little bit to go, but we have a person who is going to be working directly with the school district, and we're getting trained on how that will be able to do that survey work by going through and starting either with street trees or within parks within a certain distance to find those trees and start to put them in GPS that goes into the state record system. It is phenomenal. It'll take a bit to build, but once we understand how it works, we'll be able to tap into groups like the Friends of Mary S. Young to be able to do that work in those parks as well once we set the framework. So it's going to take a while, but I'm super excited we're getting started. And thanks to this individual who is doing it. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it without him. We are also just signed a letter of support for Tryon River river creepers for life jacket kiosks to potentially go down. If they award, one will go down at Willamette and potentially one over at Fields Bridge. We have just our kind of makeshift life jacket loaner station, but this will be a true one that will be open and closed during the season, which is super exciting with updated signage, as well as a signage package that they will put out along the Tualatins. So as you're kayaking or floating down, you can see. And it's really exciting. So that's coming up. I've already mentioned the Metro Local Share, which is ongoing, money that has been through their bond, that working through that process. It's pretty intensive, but I just had a meeting today, and so I'll be able to bring more to you in the future. But that is a lot of what I had to say and a lot that we're doing. It gets you excited and proud of what you're doing, even though if we may be having budget struggles, we're trying to optimize the work that we have and how we're doing it. And so we have fully transitioned to where staff are dedicated to park regions and they're taking care of them. We've just been, the park supervisor, Jen, and myself are meeting with each staff to walk through each of their parks to look at what they're doing, what questions, what capital projects they can take pictures of. So it's been really rewarding, and hoping that they're feeling that feedback from the community as they're seeing them on a regular basis and from us as well. So it's been a fun couple months. So yeah.
That is a lot.
So on the programming and event side, we started picnic rentals as of February 1st for the season. So we've had a really good turnout on those, and those won't start to be in effect until April. So we kind of stopped doing March because it wasn't very busy and the weather is unpredictable more so. So those started. This weekend we've got 2 dances going on for Valentine's Day. We've got one at the Adult Center tomorrow night that Nicole puts on for the social needs, cognitive disabilities dance. And then we have our Sweetheart Family Dance on Saturday night. So we've kind of combined together a little bit so we can kind of share some of the decorations. And so we're not doing double duty. We have the same DJ. So we're trying to kind of collaborate a little bit with her on some of our events too. But yes, yeah. So yeah. Yeah, and so I might add, once I get her dates too, I might add this to our major events too, because she tries to do 3 dances each year, and so they're really nice to advertise and get that out there. Other than that, gosh, summer mode still, programming, getting our summer activities ready to go, events. I was just looking, we have our list for Music in the Park already, so that's exciting. Working on our movies, those are out. People can vote on those still on our website for the 3 movies in Willamette. And yeah, just with lots of contracted instructors coming in this year for youth. I'm surprised. Laura has been very busy with a lot of new instructors wanting to teach some outdoor classes or even some indoor, some coding. And yeah, so we're even though we're poor on space, we're trying to utilize as much as we can for some of those camps. Yeah, and just evaluating a lot of our stuff. You'll see some new things going on in our events, especially for the winter time. We decided to work with Willamette Main Street, so we're going to collaborate on our tree lighting and our parade. So it's going to be all in one day down in Willamette. So yeah, so that will be, that's some new news. We did decide to pull the Willamette River Polar Plunge, just out of, the need, and it's just kind of ran its course. Yeah, a little bit. So yeah. Other than that, the other changes, yeah, well, I mean, pretty much everything is the same as last year. Yeah, the summer mode. Oh, and then we have our Heron Watch, our Friends of Maddox Woods. They're going to be starting their Heron Watch next month. So we'll get that flyer out, yeah, to you guys too.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see much in March sometimes. Just depends on, yeah, when the birds are starting to get their nests and if the ivy hasn't taken down too many trees. And the bald eagles. The bald eagles have been a real problem, yeah, in the last few years. So, yeah. So that's about it.
So I had under the recreation, you guys do so much. It's unbelievable. Just put an exclamation point on it and leave it. And two things were mentioned to me over the holidays. And one of them was some type of structured thing with bird watchers. And, Hartman at Westland High School has created herds and herds of bird watchers. It's just, it's huge. And my husband, and for some reason, all of these people now are in these bird watching club things. And anyway, there's so many opportunities in West Lynn with the water and the herons and everything. I don't know what that would look like, but it was brought to me. It's like, can't we do something structured right here in West Lynn? I said, I don't know.
Or we can even have a contractor, or if there's somebody with that one of those organizations that would help lead that, that would be fabulous.
I actually know a retired man who he was head biologist for state Fish and Wildlife. And he's like a rabid bird man. And maybe he might want to, spearhead kind of a West Lynn club. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
because we've had some volunteers that would do just like walking groups, like trail
Yeah.
walking, and they'd meet at a specific park. And
But
yeah, we try to advertise that. And yeah.
he has led and got us access. I remember, I've known him for years and years, got us into all sorts of places to, right here in West Lynn, he did that for the Scouts. And, fish, birds. And anyway, it's just, I thought I'd toss that out, not for staff to do, but maybe coordinate with a volunteer. And the other, you probably don't even want me to say it, because I remember there are lots of reasons why it can't be done, but it was asked of me about using Willamette for not just, the historic Willamette does all sorts of things already. And they were reminiscing on the street dance.
Well,
And
yeah,
I
we do have a
just-
permit in from the garage, so that is probably going to be moving forward. We are not running it,
Okay.
but it'll be through the Willamette Garage. For August 8th, I think, is what they're proposing.
On what?
August 8th.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's the date,
8th.
but they'll put that out there. But yeah, so we have a special event permit in
Okay,
with
so
from them.
That's happening through Willamette.
Just the Willamette Garage.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have to hold the licensing, and they are coordinating everything, and then just getting buy-in and approval from police, Public Works, us, city manager, because we're not running it.
We, like I always explain to people, we don't manage any of those areas, so that's what we do. It's really important to get police and public works and their sign off, because we're parkland versus tree closures. But yeah, they're excited to move forward on it. They've got their,
Yep.
yeah.
Good.
So, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on projects or rec? All right, are there any items of interest and feedback from Parks and Rec board members?
I think we're good.
Then our next meeting is in March. We won't have Megan, but Megan, will you follow up and see if those other folks would like to join us?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I will promise to get this finalized and out to you for your final review, so we can just do final approval next month. Are there any other action items?
Did we turn the annual report into Darren already?
I don't know. I'll email it to you tonight.
Okay.
If not.
I didn't email it, so we didn't see, I think we had
I
a.
didn't.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we'll take care of
We'll
that.
get
you
it
and me.
together. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, then, thank you, everybody. It was good to see you.